In this video, I'm going to show you how to do the basket weave. You'll need, for this particular weaving that we're doing, a full arm's length from the left arm to the right arm, or double the length on your left arm or right arm. That'll give you enough for a basket weave that is about this long, a few rows. And then what I want you to do is double it up so that it's about even at the bottom. It really doesn't matter that much. And then it's looped at the top like this. This previous row, what I did was I had 2 rows of basket weave so far. And what I did was I sort of tied this in here just to end that piece. I don't actually know what happened to the other one, and I'm going to cut that off. Usually we weave the tails in. With basket weave, it looks a little bit more substantial to do that, so you might want to tie it at an end, but that's completely up to the artist. Another thing to think about is if you end several times on one side, it's going to get pretty uneven on that side. So mine's a little wibbly wobbly. At any rate, it doesn't matter that much. So I'm going to start with an over. Let me see how those are unders. So I'm going to start with an over, and I'm going to weave starting with my loop. And I'm going to pull 2 and go over 2, pull 2, go over 2, pull 2 and go over 2. And I have 13 warp threads, so I ended up with a single man out here. I call him the single man. And I'm going to pull this through and over the single man till I get to the end, just like we did with our single weave. Pull this to the end. Let's leave a fairly short tail. We want enough so it goes over a couple, and then let's weave that through again. You can also weave it through and tuck it in here, but I'm going to tuck it in here. If there's 2 parts that are uneven, if you want to cut, anytime you want to cut your tail a little shorter, you can. Okay? And then I'm going to pull that nicely. Okay. Let's go on to our next one. Do you see how he's going over the single man? You might not end up with a single man. If you have 12 strings or 14, then you won't have a single man. But I had 13, so I ended up with a single. So this previous row was an over, so I need to start with an under. And then now I'm going to go over these 2. See how that last one was an under? And then I can just get my sort of rhythm going here where I go over 2 and pull under 2. Once you've done the basket weave for a couple rows, an interesting thing happens, which you can probably see. It pairs up by 2s, and it becomes quite easy to do that. As I pull this shut, I notice that this little tail is hanging out there, so this might be a good time to tuck it in a little bit more somewhere. You know, generally a weaving hangs on a wall, so it doesn't have to be super secure. It's not like it's a rug or something and going to be suffering a lot of abuse. Another thing I've noticed with the basket weave is that it can look a little loose, so tug at each end and see if that helps. And you can always tighten up it a little bit. Another thing that happens with basket weave is sometimes you get a crossover, and that doesn't look so great. So I'm going to try to flip this one over. Okay, now kind of an interesting thing happens at the end of a basket weave. So I'm going to go through and do my basket weave until I get to the end and show you how to add on a new piece. It's much nicer way to add on a piece than the previous way. So let's see. It's getting all twisted, so I'm trying to untwist it, make sure the end looks nice. Go under my single man. Pick up 2, go over 2, pick up 2, go over 2, pick up 2, go over 2. And make sure my end is good here. Try not to pull on my ends because then it gets really cinched in. All right, and then Now, a cool thing happens here. See this piece? This is somewhere we can do a slip knot, and that's pretty cool. So I have my new piece of yarn, and I'm going to add it on here. And this is pretty neat because what you do is you put this loop through like that. And do you see how I'm holding the tail with my left and I'm holding the loop here? You just put this through the big loop. It can be a really big size. You bring that through. All I did was just bring the tail through, and then I pull it. And look at that, those two things are attached. That's called a slip knot. It's very useful in camping and lots of applications and household uses, as well as weaving. And it was really nice because now when I weave, I don't have a tail at all hanging out. The pieces are really truly attached in a nice way. And the other thing about weaving I just want you to think about is, when do you switch colors? You want to switch colors when you feel it's a good time, but you don't want to have a patch of you know, one color that lasts forever. It's just not visually very interesting. And this is a pretty basic weaving. This is on a beginner loom. And when we're done with these looms, let's bring them back to the art room. Whenever we get back to school, you can actually just drop these off at the office with Miss Moran, and she'll get them to me. I'm just gonna have a box there. So when school starts again, back to hybrid, try to remember to bring your loom back. And if a couple of the little teeth came off, that's okay, that happens. But I want to reuse as many of these as I can to save money from our art budget. The only unfortunate thing is you can't do that loopy thing twice, but there's kind of a neat way to help this out, which is do this, tie a knot, because we can learn from what we did on that previous one where we had a loop. We can make a little loop at the end here, and then we can put our next basket weave going. Now I have 3 rows of basket weave, so I was kind of thinking after 3 rows of a single, we would do 3 rows of basket weave, and I actually have 4, which is okay. Miss Farr is not going to go and count your work. And then maybe I should go back to a single weave. The other thing that I'm not showing here that I do have is you can push these in a lot. That's completely up to you. I think it looks pretty nice when you do that. You can occasionally tuck these things in. If something is popping out, just pull it from the back. Fix those little things because they look nasty. I'm not going to fix it right now and bore you, but there's lots of things that you can do to hide these little buggers. Okay? All right, that's it. When you get to the end, let's do like a rayon knot or something, class. All right? Thanks.